AutoCAD 1 2D drafting at the Boston Architectural College. And in this video we're going to focus on working with dimensions and dimension styles in AutoCAD. But before we do that, we're first going to look at the drawing that we just left in the last video, and that's our pulley plate. And if you remember, in here we have some styles for text and for leaders created. And we have our layers set up for drawing a mechanical object. So what I'm going to do to actually work on the dimensions is open up another drawing that you should be working on, or hopefully you have been working on for homework, and that is this other drawing, the mechanical drawing CH5, as it's so called. And so you may recognize this from the homework assignment that was handed out last week. And if you look at this right now, when we open it up, there are no styles defined. There's just standard both the dimensions, both the text and the leader. And it has similar layers set up, but not all the layers that we saw in the pulley plate drawing. So what I'd like to do, rather than spend the time going through and recreating the styles in here, I'd like to import them into this drawing. And AutoCAD gives us a application to do that, and it's something called the Design Center. And if you just type in DC on the command line and hit enter, then you'll see this palette will open up, and this is the Design Center. And you'll see some tabs over here on the left. Some of them, one is labeled Open Drawings, and then Folders. Folders is just like browsing to the regular file structure on your computer. You can get to anywhere. But I'm interested in the Open Drawings because right now I have the mechanical CH5 drawing as well as the pulley plate drawing open. And what we can see, if we look down at the Design Center, we're on top of the CH5 drawing. If I look here, I see the pulley plate drawing listed in my open drawings, and just below that is a whole series of things that we can access into our other drawing here, into our CH5. And if I click on text styles, we see mechanical dims, mechanical notes, mechanical title. So these are all the text styles we defined in the pulley plate. And if I go up to the leader style, we have our mechanical leader style, and I'm going to click on that and just drag it into my CH5 drawing, which is open behind the Design Center. And then I'm going to look at my annotation styles, and I'm going to open up the leaders, and sure enough, there it is, now loaded into the CH5 drawing as a style I can use. So I can do the same thing with the text styles. Just click on the text styles in the Design Center, highlight, grab the text styles that I want, click and drag them right up into the CH5 drawing, which is open behind my dialog. And we go up and check that again, and sure enough, we should see that yes, those text styles are now loaded into the CH5 drawing. So now we have them to access in our CH5 drawing to annotate that drawing. The last thing I want to do is take a look at some of the layers that are in the pulley plate drawing. And pulley plate has all the same layers except for the detail layer, so I'm going to drag that into the CH5 drawing. And now that appears as another layer that I can use in the CH5 drawing. So I'm going to open up, just on the Design Center, the list underneath the mechanical, and you'll see just like we saw before on the ribbon, that these things are now loaded into the CH5 drawing and are there ready for our use. So I'm going to close the Design Center, and now we're looking at the CH5 drawing, and this is where I'm going to work on the dimensions. So just like we did before with the leader styles, here's the dimension object, what it basically looks like. And just as with the leader, there are many parts to this, and parts that we should know when we go to define our styles. So if we look at this little annotated drawing I have here, you'll see that there are a few more parts than we saw in the leader. And we see that there is the dimension line and something called arrowheads, which just like in the leader can actually be an arrowhead or be something else, but no matter what it looks like, it's called an arrowhead. And some of the other parts we have the dimension text, and then also we have something called the text offset, the dimension text offset, and the dimension line extend beyond the ticks. And then over here the extension lines, and the extension of the extension line extension, and the extension line offset from where it sits off of the object. Okay, so we're going to go back into our drawing, and let's place a typical one of the standard dimensions before we create any style in a pulley plate drawing here. Not pulley plate, but exercise CH5 drawing. So here on the annotation palette on the ribbon, there's a couple different ways we can put dimensions in. This little button here is brand new in AutoCAD 2016, and if I click on that, it puts us into what's called dimension mode. And with that in play, with that active, if I just pass over an object, you see a dimension kind of pops up, because AutoCAD guesses what the object is, what kind of object it is, and what kind of dimension it would need, whether it's a linear dimension or a radial or a diameter or what have you. So that's one way to place a dimension. However, we're going to be picking points because we're going to be dimensioning between the center lines. So I'm going to go up here and with a little pull down and click linear. You'll see there are several different types of dimension objects that we can place, but I'm going to do linear. I'm going to snap to the end of this center line, and then snap to the end of this center line, and then drag it up and then click, and that places the location of the dimension line. So this is on the wrong layer, so I'm going to select it and then go and pick my text layer so that it appears on the correct layer. And just taking a quick look at this, we see this is the standard style. So we see the closed-filled arrowheads, text in the middle of the line, everything's the same color. So what I want to do is go into the annotation pull down there and go to the dimensions and click on Manage Dimension Styles. And here we are in the Dimension Style Manager. So similar to the Leader Manager, we see a list of the styles defined on the left, and then some buttons over here on the right. What I'm going to do is click New, and a new dialog opens up, and similar to what it did in the Leader style, it says it's starting with a copy of standard, but I'm going to remove that and type in Mech Dim Style, and click Continue. And now we're into the Dimension Style Manager where we can actually define different parts of the dimension. So there are several tabs across the top here. There are many settings to make. There are over 75 settings that AutoCAD allows to control how a dimension looks. So here at the upper left is the dimension lines, and we see our extend beyond ticks, which is turned off, and then we have our extension lines. And one of the things we're going to do here is we're going to change the color. We're going to set the color to red, so that prints a little lighter. Remember, what the colors relate to the weight of the lines, how they print on the final production. Extend beyond the dim lines. Right now that's set to, I'm going to change it to 1/8. And then offset from origin, I'm also going to set to 1/8. The next tab is symbols and arrows. I'm going to change the closed filled to something kind of more drawn, more hand-drawn looking, and that would be the let's see, the Open 30 arrowhead. And notice that they have a leader thing here, but that's because in the old days leaders were part of the dimension style, but no longer in AutoCAD, so we really don't address those here. But I'm going to change the arrow size to 1/4. And I think that's all we're going to do on the symbols and arrows tab. So we're going to leave everything set the way it is. Let's go to the text tab. And here at the top left, we see text style, and if we pull that down, we see our mech dim styles. I'm going to choose that. Notice the text height is already set because it was set in the style. I'm not going to change anything about the colors. I'm not going to have a draw frame around text. I don't want that. But the position of the text I'm going to change. I'm going to say where it's vertical, it's going to be above. And then offset from dim line, I'm going to change that to, let's say 5/30 seconds. And then over here on the lower right, I'm going to change the text alignment so that it is aligned with the dimension line. Okay, then I'm going to go to the Fit tab. And this tab has settings that you really kind of have to place some dimensions to see how they work, and then you come in here. But the annotative is there, and we're not turning that on. And then the primary units, and units in dimensions can be completely different from what you set in the drawing itself. So here I'm going to change the dimensions to engineering, and I'm going to change the precision to 2. Now let's go to 2 decimal places. And everything else, I think here we will leave as it is for the time being. And then let's check. We have other tabs here. Alternate units. You can have different sets of units being run, and tolerances, which we don't get into too much, but they have to do with kind of machine parts, what are allowable tolerances. You can build that into your style. So there's our mech dim style, and that is now the set current one. And you see a little sample display of what it looks like. So now I'll close. Now what I want to do is take this dimension object that we already have on our drawing that started out as part of the standard style, and I want to make it accept or become have the mech dim style applied. So I'm going to type in PR, open up the properties palette, click on our object, and it says we're looking at something called a rotated dimension. And if we go down here to the miscellaneous section, you'll see the dim style, and I can click on that and I can choose the mech dim style. Then hit escape a couple times to deselect it, and so there it is. So we have the arrows we chose, the red extension lines, the text type that we chose. Notice that the engineering style puts the inch mark with it, and it's a little high off of the dimension line. So I'm not really happy with that, so I could go in and change that by going back in to the dim style editor, choose the manage dimension styles, highlight the mech dim style, click modify, and go to the text tab and change the distance from dim line, and I'm going to turn that down a little bit and make that I'm going to make that one. It's only letting me change 30 seconds, so I'm going to type in 1/16, 1/16, and then click OK, and then close that and come back. And what we should see is that the dimension object updated based on the new style definition, and now our text is a little bit closer to our dimension line, which is the way I wanted it. Okay, so I'm going to close the properties palette. I don't need that anymore. And we've done a lot of work here. We brought in styles, and we defined some styles, and we haven't saved anything. So I'm going to go up and click on the Save As. And you'll see there's my week 3 exercise folder I've got. And I'm going to change the name of this from just the Plants on Mech 5 to add the word Anno to it, because we're annotating this particular version of it. And click OK, and that gets saved now. And you should see that on the tab there, that's the name we're working with. So I'm going to type in Z, enter A for all. And the instructions that had us draw this left us short a couple of center lines that we're going to need to do some dimensioning. So I'm going to run the offset command, type in O for offset, and the distance is 3. I'm going to check this, select this line and offset it up, and then hit enter to get out of the offset command, then enter again to go into it. And the distance is 2, and I'm going to offset this line up to the right and hit enter. Now the last thing I need to do is to that other line I just created needs to be extended in. So I'm going to go to my zoom, and right now I'm in the real-time zoom. I can just drag, but I really want to do is do a window, so I'm going to right-click again, click on window, and drag a window around this portion of the drawing so we can see a little better what's going on, and then exit that. What I want to do is extend that line up into the center there. So I can do that by running the extend command, type in EX for extend, select where I want to extend to, hit enter, and then select the object I want to extend and click there. And then hit enter again to get out of that. So now I have all of the center lines I need. Do a zoom previous, Z enter, P enter, and I'm now looking at the whole drawing. And I have a couple other, let's make sure the text layer is active before we do anything else. So any more objects, dimension objects that we place will be on the text layer. We have a couple of more linear dimensions we need, and I'm going to click on that from the ribbon here. Select, see we have linear and we have aligned. And what does linear do if I try and do something on an angle here? If I click here and click here, linear will only go vertical or horizontal. It just gives us a vertical or horizontal distance. So I want aligned. So I'm going to choose that, click on the end point here, and then click on the end point here, and then drag, oops, didn't click, try it again, make sure I get the end point. It's being a little fussy, click, there we go, and drag that out and locate my dimension line. Now I have another one that I have to draw here down to that next section, and if I go up to aligned, I don't see the command on the pull down that I want, and in fact I don't see it here on the annotation panel on the home ribbon. If I pull this down, all I have are the styles there. I don't have any other commands. So what I can do, go back up to the top of the ribbon there where the tabs are for the ribbon, and I can choose the annotate tab, and you'll see that the ribbon changes and has several more commands there, and there are several more here, and the one I want is right there. It's called continue. Now as soon as I click continue, you'll notice that a dimension jumps off from where I left off. So I can just go down and click onto the next location and then hit enter and enter again, and then that's done. There are also some more commands down here when you click on the associate tab on the ribbon so that the ribbon comes up. And I have one more aligned command that I need, one more linear aligned object. So click there, select that, and I can click on these two endpoints here and place that dimension on my drawing. So now all my straight linear dimensions are placed, and the next one we have to deal with or worry about is an angular dimension, where we're going to be dimensioning between these two lines, these two center lines on our drawing, and putting in a dimension of an angle. So I'll go back up here and you'll see, sure enough, we do the pull down, we get angular. Click on that, and angular says select arc line circle. So we have a couple of lines. I can click that line first, that line second, and a dimension measuring an arc or an angle appears, and I can drag that to a location and place it. And zoom in a little bit, take a little better look at it, and see it's picking up the same parts of the style that we defined for the mechanical dim style, but for an angle I want that to be a little different. So I'm going to go back into the Dimension Style Manager, make sure my Mech Dim Style is selected, click on New, and down here at the bottom it says Use For. The default is all dimensions. I'm going to change that to angular dimensions, and then notice what happens. The new style name grays out. I can't change it. And when we come back in here, we're just seeing the sample drawing of an angle. I'm going to go to Symbols and Arrows, and I'm going to change that back to a closed filled. Up at the, let's do closed filled. And I think that's all I'm going to change on this tab. So let's go to the Text tab, and the only thing what I want to do is change the location. So where it says vertical, I'm going to say centered, and horizontal on the text alignment, and then go OK. And we come back here, we see that there's our mech dim style, and underneath there's something called a child style for angular. So we've added some properties to the mech dim style to deal with an angular dimension, so it looks the way we want it to look, even though it's still part of the mech dim style. And we can see the changes there. The text is in the middle of the line. We have the closed filled arrowheads. We have one other angular dimension up in this area of the drawing around our hexagon. And so what we need to do is we're going to start the angular dimension again. And again, look at the prompts there, because we really don't have two lines, but we do have a vertex. So I'm going to hit enter because the specify vertex is the default, and then snap to the midpoint there where all those lines come together. And then the first point on my line is actually this location on the hexagon, and my second one is the end of this center line. And then the angular dimension appears, and realize that if I come too close, it pops the arrows to the outside, so I want to drag it out a little bit and then place it out here. Okay, so there's our second dimension. But if you look on the handout, you'll notice that it's not 23 degrees. It's in fact something different. So if I go back in here to my styles, go to my angular, click on the angular, go to the primary units, and if we look at the decimal degrees, we see that the precision is only one, has no decimal points. So I'm going to change that to 1 decimal point, go OK, and there it is. So this is another example where AutoCAD will always draw the object correctly to the correct size if you tell it to draw it to the correct size. But it will show based on the settings you have for the kind of display you have for your units, for the precision. So the drawing is always accurate. It's really your display that changes. So let's click on we're going to be doing some diameters, and we can do our dim mode because these are simple objects that we can just click to. So I'm going to click there and get a diameter, and click on this other smaller circle, and it takes a couple of clicks to locate it. There we go. And then escape to get out of that command. Now, just as I said with the angular dimension, there are things about this dimension that I'm not happy with. So let's go back in, go back to our mech dim style. Just like we did before, click on New. Starting with copy, change it from use for all dimensions to just diameter dimensions. Go continue. We're brought into the manager. Let's go to change also the arrowhead to close filled there, and let's make it a little smaller, 3/16 of an inch. Let's go to the text. Also, let's make that centered, and let's force it to be horizontal also. OK, I think that's all we need to do there. Let's go OK. Come back, and there again another style, sub-style or child style is added for diameter. And we come back to our drawing, and sure enough, it's picked up those changes. There is one thing I didn't do, which I want to do. So go back in, highlight diameter, go to modify, and on the fit tab, under fine tuning, there's a thing called draw dim line between extensions. I'm going to turn that on and close, and you'll see what that does. It draws a line through the actual diameter of the circle, so it's very clear as to what it is we're measuring here. And let me close this. OK. And the next thing we need to do is the radial dimensions. I'm going to click on that because we have a radius here on this arc. And I'm going to click, I'll click here above it, and there's the radius. I just need to click again to place it. And we have another large radius down here. So I'll click on the radius again and click on this big curve. And I'll place this on the outside of the curve. And down a little more because I know I'm going to modify this also with the style. So let's go zoom out, zoom all, pan a little bit. And let's go back up to the style, new. Use for radius dimensions, continue, and also with the symbols and arrows, change that to the closed filled. Notice the top one was grayed out because there's only one arrow. let's go close filled. Change the size a little bit, make it a little smaller, 3/16. Go to the text, put it centered on the line, and horizontal. And the last thing I want to do is go back to that Fit tab and draw a dim line between extension lines. And go OK. Close. And there we have the radial lines being projected into the center point of the object that it's measuring. And there's one more thing with this that I want to change, that line is kind of heavy. These are yellow lines, and they're going to print fairly heavy as the text, which I don't want them to do because they'll disturb the drawing. So let's go to diameter and go to modify, and where it says dimension lines, because these are dimension lines actually, I'm going to change the color from by block to red. Go OK. And then on the radial, the same thing. Modify. Go to red on the dimension line. Go OK. And then come back to our drawing, close that, and all of our diameter lines and radial lines, and now pick up the red color, which are a little lighter, and it lets the drawing show a little more clearly. Okay, so let's hit save. Now for the last bit of annotation I want to place on this drawing, a little title block down here in the lower right hand corner. So if you drew this borderline as it was on the instructions, this is a rectangle or a closed polyline. So I need to explode it. So select it and then type in EX enter. Then we can offset the individual sides. So type in O enter and 4 for the distance. Then grab this side vertical and offset it to the left. Enter and then exit. And then enter again to start offset, and this time the distance is 0.5, so I'm going to grab the bottom horizontal line, offset it up, enter, and then grab that line again, offset that up, and offset that again up. So I've offset it up 3 times. And now we need to do some trimming. And we've been working without dynamic input turned on for most of these exercises, so I'm going to turn that on just to see how it behaves differently. And I'm going to start the trim command, type in TR. We get the little dialog right there at my cursor. Select objects, which are the cutting edges. So in this case, it's my top horizontal line and then this vertical line that we offset to the inside. Hit enter. And then the things that we want to cut. So pick on all the pieces, all the line parts that we want to cut away. Include that, and then enter. And there's our little title block or title box down in the corner. So let's do a little zoom in. Z enter, W enter, drag a little window around that so we get a little closer to what's happening here. Now we're going to place some text in here, and before I do that, I want to actually change or add another style, because that mech title style is kind of big for this. I want to do something just for the title block. So I'm going to create new mech, call it title sheet, because we're putting a title block on the sheet. Go OK, and everything's the same here, except we're going to change the bold to the book, and then the height to 1/4 or 0.25. And let's put the width factor back to simply 1. And then hit apply. And then close. And now we see that should be the active style, text style up there on our annotation ribbon. So let's put some text here. I'm going to type in DT for dynamic text or single line text. And because we're using the dynamic input, I'm going to do a little pull down by using my down key and change the style to bottom center. Snap to the midpoint of this top line. There's no rotation, so rotation is 0. And then type in the name of this project, which is exercise CH-5. And then hit enter, and enter again. Because the spacing, if I just use that line on the second line, really wouldn't work that well. So I'm going to just type in 1 line of text and then copy that down. So type in CP, enter, click on the exercise text, snap to the midpoint of the line, drag that down to the midpoint of the next line, and then perpendicular down to the bottom line. Click and then hit enter to get out of it. And then just double click on this line of text and hit the backspace and put in my name. Hit enter and then double click on the last bottom line of text. Or instead of double clicking, I can just click on the text so it becomes highlighted and the grips become available. And then if I hit the enter key at this point, it starts the text edit because that was the last command. So again, back out what was there, type in the date, which I'm going to put down February 9th, 2016, and then enter, and then we're done. So let's do a zoom all so we can see the whole drawing. So there's our pretty complete drawing, annotated with title block, dimensions and such. And I guess the last thing I want to do is in fact put that mech title in there, that using that style, put a title for this little drawing. And I'm just going to click, start the dynamic text, a single line text again, and justify bottom center and snap to the midpoint of that bottom line. And then I'm going to simply call this, I don't know what this is, I'm just going to call it a widget. And hit enter. And then I just want to move it up a little off of that bottom line, a little closer to the drawing. So type in M for move, enter, and drag it up. Okay, the last thing I could do is actually put an underline under this, and I can do that as part of the text if I double click on this. And there are codes in AutoCAD with single line text. If I put in, whoops, nope, I gotta use the shift key and put in %%U. So %%U, enter, and then that creates an underline underneath the text there. Okay, so we have our widget title with its underline, and we have a pretty complete drawing with our annotation. So let's hit save. Make sure we don't lose any of that. And the very last thing that I want to do in this exercise is take all of those settings that I've worked on creating in this drawing and the pulley plate drawing and add them to my template, because the template is the ideal place to save this type of information, so that if I ever want to go and create a drawing from scratch, I can just open that up and I'll have all of this, all of these settings, all of these styles, the text styles, the dimension styles that are made for things like angular and diameter, all set and not have to go through that process again. So what I'm going to do is go and open, click on the open dialog comes up. Down here on the bottom where it says DWG, I'm going to change that to DWT. I want to find my templates. And there it is. And it says, there's the file that we made, my name, mechanical template. I'm going to click on that and open that up. And now, just like we saw before, I have my mechanical CH5 drawing here tab, and then, whoops, my mechanical template drawing open. So I can use that Design Center application to get all those settings into my template. So just like we did before, DC, enter. And the Design Center opens up, and I'm looking on my open drawings. And we see what is being displayed here is the mechanical CH5 drawing. Although what we're on top of here is the template, which really has no graphics in it. It's just the limits and such set. So first thing I'm going to do is click on the text styles and grab all of these mech styles, highlight them, click and drag them into my template drawing and release. Then I have a multi-leader style. I'm going to click there, click on that multi-leader style, click and drag it into the template, release. And then on dim styles, several dim styles here. I want to make sure I grab all of these because one of them is the mech dim style, and then the others will have these funny little numbers after them, little dollar signs, but what that means is that they are the sub styles or the child styles, so the styles for the angular and the radial and diameter. So I want to grab all of them, click and drag into my template and release. Now just to check, to make sure they're all there, if I go to my annotation, let's go to my standard, go to my dimension line here and click on that. And what I should see is that my mech dim style is there. And if I go to my Annotate tab and click on the little arrow here to open up the text style, I'm sorry, I don't want the text style. Well, they're all my text styles. That's fine to check that. Okay. But actually what I wanted to do was go to the dimension and down at the little arrow down the corner here, click on that. That opens up the Dimension Style Manager, and there's the mech dim style with all of the child styles, the substyles, angular, radial, diameter. Okay, so the last thing, let's just check on our, there's our mech leader from the multi-leader. So I can close this. Now I can save this template. And so I can just close this template because we're done with that. And we're back to our drawing, and notice here that we still have a little asterisk next to the name on the tab. That means we haven't done a save on this, so let's make sure we save that. So let's go save, and we are done. So this is the complete exercise CH5, and hoping this will help you to complete it up to this level and submit it for the homework assignment. All right, that's it for now. Thanks.